All right, so let's take a look at the mid-segment of a triangle. So let's go ahead and get into the lesson. The mid-segment connects the midpoints of two sides of a triangle. And remember, the midpoint of a segment is the point on the line segment that divides the segment into two congruent segments. So as we see here, we have EC and BE. Those are congruent, and so we could say that E is the midpoint of line BC. Then over here, side BD is congruent to DA, so we could say that D is the midpoint. So we could conclude from this information that line DE is the mid-segment of this triangle. All right, so now looking at the mid-segment triangle theorem, or the triangle mid-segment theorem, if a segment joins two midpoints of a triangle, then the mid-segment is parallel to the third side. So we could say that sides DE and AC are parallel. So DE and AC are parallel, and DE would be half as long. So we could say that DE equals 1/2 of AC, or we could say that AC is twice DE. So as an example, if AC were 6, DE would be 3, or another example would be if DE was 7, AC would be 14. So let's identify some parallel segments. So as you can see here, X, W, and Y are all midpoints because it cuts each side in half, and we can see that by the congruence marks on each side. So if X, W, and Y are midpoints, then XY, WY, and WX are mid-segments, which would make that third side parallel to that mid-segment. So let's write down 3 pairs of parallel sides. So if we look at the mid-segment XY right here, that will be parallel to side QS. So XY is parallel to side QS. And then looking here at XW, I'm going to draw 2 parallel marks here. That will be congruent to RS. So XW would be congruent to RS. And then last, we have WY. Put 3 marks here, would be congruent to QR. So here we have our 3 pairs of parallel sides. So we're just identifying parts of the triangles and what we know about it using the mid-segment theorem. All right, so we have an example problem here. We have, it says if L, M, and N are midpoints, and so again, if these points here are midpoints, we can conclude that LQ is congruent to PL, QM is congruent to MR, and NR is congruent to PN. So those are all midpoints. PR is 46, so let's label that. PR is 46. PQ is 40. And LN is 17. So let's find these missing sides. So if we look at LM, which is here, all right, it should be half of side PR according to the mid-segment theorem. So LM would be 23 because 23 is half of 46. All right. that parallel side, that third side there. If we look at MN, which is right here, okay, that parallel side would be 40. So it would be half of 40. So MN would be 20. If we look at QR here, we don't know the length of QR, but we know the length of LN. The LN is 17, and so the third side would be twice that. And so 17 times 2 will give me 34 for QR. And then MR here, we have 17 for LN. If QR is 34 and MR will be congruent to QM, if the whole thing is 34, that would make each side 17 here. Okay, so again, QR is 34. So half of that would be 17 for MR. All right, so we found the length of each one of these sides here. Okay, so we have another example here. So why don't you try this one on your own? Knowing what you know about the mid-segment theorem and that third side and the mid-segment, you can set up an equation to solve for x and then find DE. So go ahead and pause the video and try this problem. All right, so we can set up an equation here. So hopefully you got it correct. You should have gotten DE is equal to 37. So let's see how we got there. All right, so DE is the mid segment, AB is that third side. And so our equation we could set up would be 2 times 4x plus 1, because twice the side DE would equal AB, because DE is half of AB. So this is the equation we could set up. Then of course just using those algebra skills to solve this problem. Combining our like terms and dividing by 3. So x is 9. Then plugging that into DE. So DE is 4x plus 1. So 4 times 9 plus 1. That would be 36 plus 1, which will give us that 37 for DE. So hopefully you got it correct. Okay, so we've come to the end of our lesson. Some related videos are angle bisectors of triangles and perpendicular bisectors of triangles. So hopefully you got the gist of this lesson. And also don't forget to like, comment, share, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Peach Pie. Thank you for learning with me.